What's your lemonade stand story?
And he was like, YouTube's going to be the next big thing, Devin. Like, you need to get on that. You need to get on it early. And I'm like,
And all of us, we all go through our own trials, our own level of stuff.
Sure hope this works out. Otherwise, this will be a huge waste of time.
I mean, what else is it all about other than just taking risks and continuing to try and grow and hopefully get better and better at making things?
Most of the billion-dollar brands you've seen were started by people that were just solving a problem for themselves.
We're telling lemonade stand stories from some of the world's top creators, makers, and go-getters.
We're rolling right now.
Hey, just roll.
We're having fun. We're rolling.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this podcast today is sponsored by Yalla, a task management and team collaboration software that we use at Lemonade Stand. We use Yalla to keep all of our team members organized, wherever they are. In fact, we used it to plan and organize this podcast. Visit yalla.team, that's YALLA.team, and try it for free. We also have a special offer for all listeners of this podcast. Use promo code LEMONADE and get a lifetime 25% off if you upgrade. What is going on, guys? This is Chen Prabhakar with the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast, and today with me, if we can even get through this without having like a coherent thought possible, that will be a miracle in and of itself.
It won't happen.
It's not going to happen, though. It's not. I mean, I'm predestining us for failure already, but
manifest that.
Manifest that. I'm going to manifest that so hard. Across the table from me are my two really, really good friends, Jono and Alan, and oh my gosh, Jono Decker and Alan Seawright. We've been friends for so long. Jono and I met in 2002. We were like discovering this because we all have an incredible love for film and movies.
Yes. Correct.
And as
we've
such,
been friends for 20 years.
For 20 years, man. That's
Check
awesome.
that out.
No, it's about, well, it's been 20 years.
It was
a little bit after that.
2 years after that.
2 years after.
2 or 3 years, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
it
was 05.
Was it 05? Okay, that's right. But I met Jono because he lived right below me, and I was in the middle of making a very high production quality film called Dino Hand. And I was like, well, I need something in this movie other than just my hand being a dinosaur. And so I was like, well, what can I do? And then my friend Dave King, you remember Dave, was like, oh, you got to talk to Jono Decker. I'm like, wait, what? Jono?
Dino Hand was, because you directed it, right?
I directed the second one. This one I was the Sharon's getting there, but I was the fight choreographer.
He was a fight choreographer.
Oh, I see.
Yes,
and the editor.
Yes, and so I remember.
If you think it's bad now, you should have seen it before I did the editing.
Let me tell you. I went over to his house, and I'm like, okay, I have an idea, and I just told him like, my hand's gonna be involved, and he like, okay, but then he caught the vision. I don't know why, but he did.
Yeah.
And then
none of us know why.
None of us know why.
You're triple jointed, right?
Triple jointed is what it was.
Your hand can, for those who are watching.
For those of you who are watching, I'll go ahead and give a demonstration of my hand. Right here.
And then oh gosh.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Clip your nails, man.
I need to. I'm so sorry. But listen, dinosaurs don't clip their nails, as we found out.
Yeah, so we made. If you've literally watched everything else that's available on YouTube, and
if you've run out of YouTube,
if you run out of YouTube
last
content,
possible thing, you can watch Dino Hand.
Yes,
and Dino Hand 2.
Dino Hand
Triumphant.
Yes, we never made the third one.
No, we never did.
Dino Hand Forever, Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones, right? And it's not too late, guys. It's never too late.
Are we going to do a bunch of visual effects like a clone army of Dino
Hands?
Hands?
Yeah, that was the plan. Alan, you need to direct that one.
No, we're making it.
Okay, we have to.
This is a thing we're
This is a have to. But we met and became fast friends, and like we just like loved hanging out. We would like, and it was cool because of course film brought us together, but like, man, the memories that I've had with you, Jono, like even those first couple of years, like road trips to Arizona, meeting your family, having a good time, like we just had so much fun. And then 24 became a thing, right?
The TV show. Yeah, Jack Bauer fighting terrorists.
Yes. And then that morphed into 29, which why don't you talk about 29
So we did a parody of 24 about people who It was. We had a group every week that watched 24 religiously.
This was based on a real life event, right?
Yes, we were watching 24 religiously. This was before Hulu.
Based on a true story.
Before Hulu, before if you missed it, if you missed the episode, you could watch it on DVD like 6 or 7 months later.
Yeah,
and it was the season finale, and we'd all been watching it all year together. And my buddy we were at his house, and his plane was late, and he gets off the plane and he calls us like with 3 minutes before the show. He's like, "I'm not going to make it on time. I need you guys to set the TiVo."
Okay.
And none of us knew how to work a TiVo because it's 2005.
Of course.
And so he's talking us through it as the clock is like counting down to the start of the season finale, and we're freaking out. And he's talking us through it, and it reminded me of like when someone's talking you through how to defuse a bomb, like cut the red
It's
wire.
just the same way.
Hyper tense.
Yeah,
It's
super
like a
intense.
scene from 24.
And all of it, like I remember I was like almost sweating, and all of us were like, "Oh my gosh, we got it!" And we finally got the TiVo working so he could catch the season finale. And I had the thought, I'm like, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was as intense as stopping a terrorist threat, and it's just the TiVo.
Yes.
And so 29 is the idea is it's as intense as an episode of 24, except for the stakes are incredibly low.
So low.
So the plot of 29, which it's 29 minutes long, right?
Yeah.
So the plot, because I didn't know you guys. Jono moved into my apartment right when he was finishing this film.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
you just started showing up at my apartment because
It was just the thing to do. It was the thing to do.
It was the thing to do.
I ate you guys' food. I'm
And
so
so,
sorry about that.
this guy moves
Yeah.
into my apartment, and literally within about 25 minutes, you had seen my big speakers and like my surround sound system. And you're like, "Hey, can I borrow those? I'm premiering a movie for all of my friends tomorrow."
Oh
And I
my
was like,
gosh.
"Sure, guy, this will be great."
Yeah.
But we went
It was
and watched
very
it. And
kind
it was,
of him.
It was
Very kind.
amazing. So the plot of the movie is,
Yeah.
your girlfriend is so upset with how obsessed with 24 you are that she puts the parental lock on the TV, and so everyone's getting together to watch it, and you have to interrogate her like Jack Bauer torturing terrorists
Yeah.
to get the parental lock code to unlock it. And you are a secret agent who is trying to get somewhere,
Yes.
and you keep getting assaulted by Jono in a very poor disguise
Yes.
and other people.
Yes.
And it turns out you're a delivery agent for Secret Agent
Pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people were just so disappointed,
Oh man, and it's that whole thing, and everybody gets there, and then what is the stinger at the end where?
The
forget.
Sasquatch attacks.
Oh yeah, the Sasquatch.
Yes.
That's right. Someone else was getting attacked by a Sasquatch while trying to propose to his girlfriend.
Yes.
Yeah, like all the different.
All the different
Boy,
scenarios.
So many plot lines.
So much rich history. And the thing that was actually very special about it, and we were talking about this a lot, was we didn't even know after we made the movie if we were going to even edit it and get it done, because our good friend who was in the film actually passed away right after shooting the film.
Oh, that's right, she did.
Yeah, she passed away. And so we had the premiere.
5 days after
Yeah.
we wrapped filming, she drowned.
She drowned.
And we were
on a trip together.
And it was
right?
so hard to edit
Yeah.
the film and watch the film, and we were debating whether it was even worth it to finish it.
Yeah.
And then we decided like that we wanted to honor her and as a memento of her. And turns out that meant a great deal to her family. They love to watch.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that part of the story.
Yeah.
Because she's great in it. She's super fun.
Oh, she's really funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's wonderful.
And I'm so glad like we did like a huge like highlight reel for her specifically, right?
Yeah, for her family, right?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I loved working with you on that film as well because it really taught me about the special feeling you have when you're working with your friends, creating memories.
Yeah.
And like that was it for me, and like 29 became a very special movie because of that. You're like, oh my gosh, like these memories are preserved. Like this is why I got into filmmaking to begin with. And so
Every movie you make becomes a time capsule.
It does.
Yep.
It does, and it's incredible. So we made that film, and then I started coming over to your house as I would, and
Well, we
Alan
had
was
food.
like, "Yeah, there was food. There was food, and it was plenty available." And it was funny because Alan, you hadn't even gotten into filmmaking at that point, right?
I had not made
Yeah.
I'd always been obsessed with movies.
Yes.
And when I was a little kid, like, how old were we when Jurassic Park came out? 11, 12?
We were 12 when
We were
Jurassic
12.
Park.
Yeah.
We were 12 when Jurassic Park came out. I went to see it opening day. This was the first movie that I'd been like, I knew who Steven Spielberg was. I knew that movies got made by people. They didn't just magically appear on a screen.
It took me a long time to figure that out.
Right. You still kind of...
I'm still trying to figure that out. Yeah.
You start in dozens of things, and you're like, how does this
happen?
Anyway, so, I went to see Jurassic Park, blown away by it. nightmares for weeks, terrified, come home from the theater, tell my mom I want to make movies. And she's like, oh, you can't do that. I want to make movies like Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And she, out of a place of love, was like, no, you can't do that. And I was like, oh, okay, mom's right. She knows, because I didn't know any better.
Right.
So I hadn't done anything. And then I watched 29, which, I assumed, hey, it's going to be a student film. It will be terrible.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. And
fun.
I had a fun with you guys.
Yeah.
And then Jono and I bonded over other stuff. And, within a couple of weeks, we were fast friends. And so that all happened in like late August. Sometime in October, I pitched 29 Day 2 to you, right?
Yeah.
You pitched a sequel idea to me.
Yeah, I pitched a sequel idea. I came over, we were in the same apartment. Jono, his bedroom was like across the apartment. So I walk over there and it's like 10 o'clock at night.
Uh-huh.
And we both had a long day, classes, work, whatever.
Yeah.
So I go into his room and I'm like, hey, I think I have an idea for a sequel to 29.
Yeah.
Hear me out. And I give him like a 5-minute pitch, and I'm sure it was terrible. This is like my first pitch ever.
No.
But the content was good enough that he goes, oh my gosh, and we just did that, oh my gosh, and then what if this? Oh my gosh, and then what if this? And it was just that over and over until 3 a.m.
Yeah. And we had
the
story.
entire thing
Mapped out.
after about a half hour of that, I'm like, wait, and I run and get a notebook and I come back in and filled up 6 or 7 pages worth of notes.
And my memory, and maybe you remember differently, is I said the only issue this will never get made, because I directed the first one. I'm like, I have time to act. I don't have time to direct this thing. I don't have time to create it. And you're like, well, I could do it.
See, and I remember this differently.
Yeah, so what's your memory of it?
My memory of it is, we got through all of that and we're looking at the notes and it's 3 a.m. He's like, well, we should go to bed because we both have class at 9 o'clock tomorrow.
Right.
We should, be responsible adults. Yeah. And go into film. We're looking at the notes and I'm like, oh man, this is amazing. I'm so excited for you to make this. And you were like, well, you love film and do all this stuff. I don't have time to do it this semester.
Right.
But you know all this stuff. Why don't you just direct it? So I remember
that may be what happened.
Telling me, dude, this was almost 20 years
all
ago.
I know is I didn't have
our
time
memories
to.
are good enough.
Yeah.
And we're middle-aged men now at this point. No, that actually rings true. I think I saw something in you, you had so much enthusiasm to do this, and I'm like, because originally you were gonna just play the villain, and I'm like, why don't you direct it? And you're like, I should direct it, and then you did, and I'm so sorry.
Ruined me.
No, it was
Completely
so
ruined
fun
me.
because I remember being a part of that, and I think I was helping kind of produce that one a little bit.
You helped produce,
right?
Yeah,
because we found that location by New Skin for that fight sequence.
Yeah, you helped get New Skin locations. I think you're the guy who brought on. Didn't you introduce me to Dave Skousen, who came on and helped us shoot?
Oh my gosh, he did. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that was just, it was just such fun memories. We did a car chase in the middle of winter,
We did a car chase. We did an explosion thing. I think you helped wrangle getting the. No, I did that.
I think you did that.
I think I did that.
Yeah,
but we put together way more movie than we should have.
What Sharon was for the explosion was the fire marshal.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
You were standing by with literally a garden hose.
Yes, I'm like, all right, guys, here we go. Don't worry, you guys. I got you.
We got this. Don't worry, it's all covered.
Oh, man. And then that whole experience, and I remember when we premiered at the JSB, that was wild.
On BYU campus.
BYU campus. And how many people did we have show up? A lot of people.
So the room seats 800, and every seat was full, and there were people lining both sides and the whole back. So it was 850 to 900 people in there.
That's amazing.
Going wild, laughing at all the jokes. I had, at that point, I had spent the last week. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
We premiered on a Tuesday. Do you remember when we shot your intro scene?
Was it just a couple days before?
Saturday.
Okay, gosh, that makes sense.
We shot that on Saturday.
We wrapped principal photography 3 days before the premiere.
3 days before. Now, granted, I had a big chunk of the movie cut already, but it was supposed to be 29 minutes long to match yours, and it ended up being 48 and a half minutes long.
Yeah.
Should be shorter. I should have cut more out of it. But I didn't know what I was doing.
And Alan didn't sleep for a week, just did the editing.
No.
In the previous 7 days, I slept a total of 13 hours.
Oh, my gosh. Dude, I just remember.
It was the biggest high, partially because, there there was this huge crowd of people watching our movie, laughing at the jokes, clapping, cheering. We got a standing ovation at the end. So part of it was that giant emotional high, and part of the high was I was so sleep deprived, I was literally like sleep drunk.
Yeah. No, I remember walking out, and then I was the three of us and Tim Whiting. We all took a picture in front of the poster. I think it was in the Cougar Eat or something like that, and it was just such an incredible memory that we had together. Like, that was so fun. And I remember thinking, like, okay, that's it. I have to make movies. And so I went on my own journey to do that. Too. And then, you know, we did CTU Provo, which was incredible. And that was like all right, we now need to make a feature film.
You were a straight up producer on that.
On that one I was, yeah.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's thanks to you we got Donny Osmond to play the villain.
Yep, Donnie's a terrorist.
Sharon was integral to that movie. I mean,
that was a fun time.
I joke about it now, but because we were in like full speed production and post on that for about 14 months.
Right.
And during that 14-month period, I'm fairly certain there wasn't a single day, including like Thanksgiving and Christmas, that you did not call me.
Oh, I called you multiple times. I'm like, happy Thanksgiving, man.
Most days
Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Oh yeah.
I had to make sure he was okay.
I was not. I was not okay. But thanks for trying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, you know, I joke about it, that like I just couldn't escape from Jared. I couldn't get away from him.
He could not.
And that is the sign of a good producer.
Yes. Oh man, it was such a good memory, man, because like we shot that over the course of a good chunk of time, because like everyone was
we shot
free.
The main unit for 4.5 months.
Yes.
And then we went back and did pickups for 2 weeks that ended up being almost 30 pages of material.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
And we were kind of casting as we were going, and trying to
everybody was working for free.
I know
we spent all our money in all the wrong places.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did everything wrong.
But it was so interesting, because like that was my first feature film that I've ever produced.
Sure.
And I remember thinking, like, even though it was like super hard, and it was tough to act and to produce at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. Like to act and then like, okay, now I got to take a bunch of phone calls. But I remember thinking, like, what an incredible memory that we all had. And even though it was, like, so tough, like, seeing the footage. And I wasn't a part of this, but I heard you guys got, like, the cops showed up and, like, had you guys at gunpoint or something like that.
So this is the best story from that whole shoot. We had a scene where there are some terrorists that have kidnapped Jono's character, named very creatively Jono.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're driving around, and they're supposed to be driving through a canyon, but we didn't want to have to drive all the way up the canyon, so we found some tree-lined streets in Provo, because the angles, we were down low, so we were just looking up and seeing trees.
Because we're supposed to be in the forest.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be.
But we filmed it in the city where we had a bunch of trees.
Right.
So we're just driving a loop, back and forth on this street.
Yeah.
Because movie magic, and what had happened is we got to the end of a street and turned around and stopped so that we could kind of reset and get ready to go for our next shot. And we're in this like scuzzy brown van that's supposed to look like a hippie terrorists, like eco terrorists.
Well, and you have to understand, over and over and over again, the take is we're driving a little bit erratically, and someone in the front seat is pointing a gun towards the back and screaming.
Yeah.
And the person driving is in full camo with sunglasses and a beret and looks like Che Guevara.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely a picture that we're presenting to people who don't know what's going on. And me being the greenest, stupidest film producer director ever, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't contact the police.
Yeah, why do you need to?
I didn't get a permit.
Yeah.
I did nothing.
Yeah.
It was just like, we're just going to go. We're going to be inside the van. Who cares?
Yeah.
And who cares is the driver of the garbage truck, who saw us pull over and this, young woman jogging, stop next to the van and kind of look at us, and I, roll down the window. I'm like, we're just shooting a movie. And she's like, okay, cool. And then she jogs away. He didn't see her jog away. What he saw is a terrorist van with people with guns pull over and a young woman disappear.
Great.
Yeah, super.
Great.
That's exactly what you
want.
And
the next thing he sees is someone pointing a gun towards the back and screaming.
Right. So he calls the cops. And just gives them the description, hey, there's a brown van.
Yep.
The police proceed to close all the freeway on-ramps.
Great.
In Provo and Springville.
Yeah.
They deploy every unit. They pulled over. Apparently, did
A couple of other brown
they pulled
vans.
over
Yeah.
some other brown vans.
Yeah.
Because there's a kidnapping.
Because there's a kidnapping. This is a serious deal.
It's a serious deal.
They find us, pull us over, and I'm like, oh crap! Like we have an expired registration on this van.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I just hop out.
Yeah.
Van.
Yeah.
And I go walking up to the car, and the cop is like, "Hey, what are you doing? Hold it right there!" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, wow."
Yeah.
Dude's got his hand on his gun.
Well, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Not yet. And I'm like, "Hey, we're just shooting a movie."
Yeah.
So I need to tell you, we have some like fake stuff in the van, and I reach into. I'm wearing cargo shorts, so I reach into my cargo short pocket to pull out like script and the things to show him we're just shooting a movie, and his hand goes to his gun. He didn't draw it on me, but he like hand goes to the gun and he unlatches it and he's like, "Hold it right there. Show me your hands." I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
This is different from what I thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we getting pulled over because of a traffic stop? And he's like, "Who do you have in the van?" And I'm like, 3 actors and a camera guy. Who should I have in the van, sir? I'm like losing it. And then like right after that, like comedy timing, perfection. Who should I have in the van? 6 other cop cars pull up, like 2 unmarked and 3 black and whites.
Yeah.
Just like, brrr, like noise.
And they're coming in
people
hot.
running around
Yeah.
and like they're all jumping out, like guns drawn and everything. And the other guy's like, "Okay, everybody, stand down. Hang on a second. I think we gotta." I'm like, "Guys, I don't. What do you think happened?"
Yeah.
Because I can explain what it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because it probably wasn't that.
Yeah.
So they impound the van. They took our bag of fake weed, which was just a bag of oregano for our eco, hippie terrorist guy. They take our airsoft guns, which I had to go get out of impound. I had to pay a fine. I had to do all this stuff. The good news was, going through all of that, the guy who nearly drew his gun on me ended up being the cop at the end of the movie.
No way. Was that him?
Yeah, it was Officer Jonda.
Yes.
Because he was so cool afterwards. He was like, "Oh my gosh, dude, I nearly killed you."
Yeah.
Like I've seen him several times over the years since then. And every time he's like, "I nearly shot you, man."
Yeah. It's good. It's good. You know what? He was auditioning for the part.
He freaking
He got it. He got it. Oh man, that was such an intense. Like I remember you telling me about it. I'm like, wait, what? Like what happened? And I was like, man, I cannot believe I wasn't on set that day. But wow, that was a wild day.
You missed out on. I mean, that's the best movie set. It's one of the best movie set stories I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Which. It's sad that it's my fault. Like, you don't want to be the cause of like, "Hey, did you ever hear about that stupid thing that happened on a set one time?" It was me.
Oh, you know what's great is ever since then he has a permit and the city knows what he's up to.
Yes,
every
single time he knows. And what's cool is like, I feel like the Provo PD and like officers here are so respectful and so cool. Like they've always been so cool to me.
We honestly have a really good police department.
We really do.
We're really lucky that way.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. But okay, so we did all these amazing, awesome memories and stuff together, and then Jono, you went off to Auburn to get your
my graduate degree.
Your graduate degree in marriage therapy, and Alan, you went off to keep doing more films. I kept acting. I moved to LA. Moved to LA, did all that stuff, but then. We've always kept in touch, and we were always like, okay, well, we have to circle back. And
you guys
do
are at
some
my wedding.
At your wedding,
all
right?
Sorts of, yeah.
When I ran into you in LA.
Yeah.
How many times over the years?
I don't even know. It was just like so many
sometimes
times.
randomly, like I'd be down there. Working on something, and I just bumped into you on the street. I think that happened twice.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the? Yeah, and it was just so funny, like how we'd always like circle back and like be in each other's lives. But I remember. Jono, you were first telling me about cinema therapy and like what you were going to do with it and everything, and you guys getting going on it. This is the Lemonade Sound Stories podcast.
I think I was telling you about it before we started.
I think you were.
Yeah.
You really were. And because this is the Lemonade Sound Stories podcast, I want to we did a lot of acting, a lot of filmmaking. How did you guys join forces? And let's talk about the beginnings of that. And Alan, I also want to talk about like your experience in California and all that stuff. So I think it was your idea first, right?
Yeah, John will lead off.
Yeah. The short version, Alan's probably tired of hearing me say the story, but my wife says you have your passions for a reason. Mm-hmm. And you both know how I'm crazy about cinema, but I'm not in the film industry. I made that decision. I like therapy or film, and I decided to become a therapist. And so I thought, well, I'll just transition to being a normal person who enjoys a movie once in a while. But I remained obsessed.
Didn't work.
No, it
didn't work. Didn't take.
It didn't take.
And so I became a film critic, written and on television. I had several things that I had going. but I just always had a foot in that door.
Yeah.
And I kept, you know, I'm a God person, so I kept talking to God about it. Why do I have this crazy passion for this? And Alan said to me, there are two things Alan said to me that even though I had the idea for cinema therapy, I don't think if Alan hadn't said these things, I would have had the idea. The first is that, you know, I was doing film reviews primarily for my faith, for people of my faith from that perspective. And he says, you're meant for bigger things. You're meant to reach a wider audience. And then the second thing was that Alan and I were at Salt Lake Comic-Con, now FanX, which is another place we all hung out.
Yeah.
We would meet up there
all
every
the time.
year.
And he said to me that he was experiencing some life dissatisfaction because he says, you're actually helping people as a therapist. And right now what I'm doing isn't really helping anybody.
I was primarily directing commercials.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is helping the bottom line of whoever.
Dude, I feel the same way sometimes acting in them, right? Because I'm like, this is great, but like, how do you impact?
And it's, I mean, you can be creatively fulfilled.
Sure.
I mean, really creatively fulfilled. Commercials are a great medium, but yeah, you're not helping people.
Right. And I saw that Alan had this drive to do good in the world and to lift people. And he had a YouTube channel. It was a political-based YouTube channel, which was just really high quality. And he was very engaging and very funny. He could speak to camera, which I think...
That was the one you did with Darren, right? Did you do that with Darren?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Darren produced and I
That's
did
right. I remember that.
Which the
awesome.
three of us know that talking to a camera is a skill. Yeah. Even if you can act on stage or on camera, which I could, actually talking just to a lens as if it's a person.
Yeah, breaking that fourth wall is a whole...
It's tricky. It's a different thing.
Until you've tried it, you don't know how awkward and weird it is.
Right.
Yeah.
But he was natural. Or at least he came across as natural. He may have had to work at it, but he was very
huge amount of editing.
Yeah.
And so he did that channel. I thought we could do a YouTube channel, and I thought Alan wants to help people. I want to help people. I want to talk about movies, and I knew cinema therapy. I didn't create the idea. Like using movies to help people has been around for several decades.
Yeah.
It's as supplemental to actual therapy, but I got to thinking about using movies as I already was in classes and presentations. I would use film clips to illustrate, like if I had an abstract concept from psychology or marriage and family therapy, to make that grounded and real. Like this is what it looks like. Yeah. And so I had this idea, and then I got really excited about it, and I called Alan. I was in Bali with my family, and I called.
What time was it for you? Because it was a weird time for me. I don't even remember.
It
must have been like 2 a.m. for you or something.
I don't know. It was late. It was late at night. My family was in bed.
Okay.
And he was immediately, he got it.
It was the 38-year-old version of what we had done 15 years previous.
Yeah.
Right.
Just instead of staying up till 3 a.m, we stayed up for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But within that hour, we had 90% of what the show is already.
Honestly, you pitched me, and in 3 sentences, do you remember this? You said 3 sentences, and I came back to you and went, I know exactly what this show is. And it's a 1 million subscriber channel.
Yeah.
And you just knew.
I knew it immediately.
Which it will be a 1 million subscriber channel this year.
Yeah, within a couple of months.
And we were not even 2 years into it.
That's amazing. And you know, it's so incredible.
So it's going to be a more than 1 million subscriber channel.
I underestimated.
Well, what's
awesome.
What's incredible?
This is a good feeling.
It's a great feeling
because that's never happened before,
dude. We
always overestimate.
We always overestimate. We always underdeliver. That's our motto. That's what we do.
That's our whole thing.
Yes. No, you know what's so interesting? When YouTube was like really, really coming out, like and being a thing, like it was like early like 2008, 2009, around that time, people were like, jump on a YouTube channel, do that because you can grow into like a big channel. You guys started on YouTube way late in the game, and you're still killing it, and you're still bringing some incredible material.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think it's incredible, and I want to talk about that growth. I want to hear your side of the story, though, and like when you decided to hop on board, because you weren't completely ready yet, right?
No, so my side of the story is, Jono, it was in November, right, of 2019? It was October or
No,
November?
it was early October.
Early October of 2019.
Yeah.
I had just taken a job in LA, and I was moving my family down there. So yeah, this 2019. I was moving my family down there right after Christmas, and it was like, okay, I'm starting this job. I'm like commuting back and forth to LA right now. I'm moving my family down there. We're gonna have to wait a little while. This is a great idea. There's nobody on YouTube doing this, so We don't have any competition, so there's no worries there.
And I was traveling in Asia, so like
were
we
in Asia,
weren't
so
in-
we weren't
you
ready
can
to
do it
start.
anyway.
we weren't in a hurry. Yeah.
Yeah, we were going to wait until you got back and I was settled, and then we were like, okay, and then we'll start talking about, we'll probably start like late spring, early summer.
I was
of
going to drive to
2020.
California.
Yeah,
you know,
we were
for
gonna
shoots and
we were gonna figure out like a location to shoot it in California. And of course, my timing in moving to LA was historically awesome.
Incredibly awesome.
Yeah. Get down there in January of 2020 to work in the film industry. What could
Perfect.
possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
And so, COVID hit. I lost my job. This was all, the second week of March in 2020. And the next week, do you remember this? You guys had come home from Asia a little bit early, like ahead of the COVID wave.
Yeah, COVID was just starting, so we're like, we better get home before we get locked out of the U.S.
Exactly. So they got home earlier than they had been planning.
Brought COVID with us. It's all our fault.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Your
All
contribution to the world has been incredible.
All that Asian hate, it
Yeah.
should be the Deckers.
Yeah.
So direct your racism accordingly.
Yeah.
We didn't know that's a joke.
That was a
That's
joke.
obviously-
Terrible
obviously
joke. Terrible joke.
But so yeah, the week after that, I was in danger of spiraling. Because I had just picked up and moved my family to this place where we were spending 3 times what we had been in Utah on rent. I had lost my job. And then, I'd made a bunch of contacts and friends and stuff, and everybody was sympathetic, and a lot of people wanted to work with me, but they're like, look, we can't.
There's no work for you to do.
There's no work. The entire industry shut down. Like overnight in California, 250,000 people lost their jobs.
Wow.
And just in my industry, in the film industry. And so, there just wasn't anything available. And my wife and I were like trying to decide, okay, do we try to stick it out here? Do we, get out of our lease and go back to Utah? My in-laws have a nice big house with a basement that we could stay in because they're, very kind and would let us do that. And it's like, okay, we could do that temporarily and get back on our feet, figure out what we're doing. So we're trying to figure that out. And I'm just spiraling into depression. We're stuck inside our small townhouse. My kids are doing school. And I just called Jono up and I'm like, what do you got? We got to let's start now. People are stuck at home watching movies and feeling the same pressure I'm feeling. If we don't start now, when?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
before COVID, we would have started June or July of that
it would have been
year.
June or July, and we would have tried, but COVID hitting. I mean, this is the ultimate. We're on the Lemonade Stand podcast. This is the ultimate lemons into lemonade story. I lost my job, and then we did end up moving back into my in-laws' basement. About a month and a half after that. Right after that, Jono and I started shooting together. Before that, we'd been sort of shooting our sides separately, which was okay, but
the banter is not
well.
there if you're not together, right? Yeah.
Well, and those are the only episodes, those early episodes, if you go on our YouTube channel, where Alan's in one location and I'm another, and we're talking through webcam. We're actually not talking through webcam. Those were the only episodes that are fully scripted.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we wrote an entire script because all of our throws to each other, we had to write who says what on this side and who says what on that side to make it feel like we're transitioning.
And the episodes still work, but not nearly as well as the ones where we're in the
fine.
same place.
Yeah.
So I had a good idea of what the show wanted to be, but obviously we needed to do it in person a bit to really get it nailed. But we did that, and it was, for me, it kind of kept me sane.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, and this was just a weird, side benefit. It feels gross to talk about how much we got lucky or were blessed or however you want to look at it, because COVID has been such a terrible thing, and it's been such an amazing thing for us. Because it forced me, I literally had nothing else to do for an entire summer.
You
so
had to
all I
pivot.
did was just do the show.
Right.
Because I had nothing else. It wasn't making any money. There was no chance of it making money.
And that's
we
what I was
didn't see.
Yeah.
I thought, I knew at some point it would hit and it would turn into a viable thing. I assumed that it would take 3 to 4 years to be making enough money to pay me a salary.
Yeah.
Working full time.
Yeah.
What ended up being the case is it took about a year to get to the point where it could pay both of our families a salary and then additional people to run all the stuff that we didn't have time to do because it got even bigger than we thought it would.
Yeah.
And we're now finally happened fast, We're at the place now that if we choose to, we could do this full time.
Yeah.
I still do therapy, and I have a clinic that I manage, Mended Light. I have therapists that I am the clinical director. And Alan obviously wants to keep making films.
Yeah.
Has dreams and things that he wants to do there. But we had so we started in April.
We started, our first episode came out the first week of April 2020, and Thanksgiving of 2020 we blew up.
You blew up.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this, because
But until then, we were like trusting that it would.
yes,
But we were also there was a nagging doubt, which was that this would never take off, that we would have a few thousand people who were really passionate about it, that we would be a cult hit, but that at a certain point we'd have to close up shop.
Yeah.
right.
Because it was a huge time commitment.
It
Like,
was, and that's what I was going to ask you guys, because building a YouTube channel anyway requires a lot of work. But
Sure.
when it's a show like yours, it's highly produced. The time, and I've seen episodes, and it's hilarious and it's awesome. And being able to see like the two of you guys banter, to see you open up your heart all the time, it's incredible. And I feel like it's a way for a lot of people to connect. But why do you think it went from like a couple thousand people to like tens of thousands, 20 of thousands, and then like to where it is right now in that Thanksgiving time? Like what do you think hit that made it so powerful?
I mean, what happened is the YouTube algorithm figured out where to push it. So we had 2 episodes, one about the Pixar film Inside Out, and one about the Disney movie Tangled.
Okay.
That both kind of hit at the same time. The Inside Out one was bigger, but we're all working for our AI overlords at this point. We just don't know it.
Great.
And this, the combination of, the title of the video, the thumbnail that it showed to people, and then the AI just figuring out, these are the audiences I can put it in front of, and they're gonna click. And then, to our credit, obviously the AI did that. To our credit, once people clicked, they stayed, they watched the whole thing, and then they watched 8 more episodes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that's,
That's
I
amazing.
was confident that we were making a show that people would like. I didn't know, and frankly, I'm still a little flummoxed by the fact that we make a show that people binge.
Really?
Because we constantly get people still. Like, I just found you guys, and I've been watching your videos all day. I just watched 18 videos. Like, we get that comment every day.
And our videos aren't short.
No, they're like a half hour long.
Yeah, it's an episode. It's like a TV episode.
It's very much designed to be, even though it's on YouTube, it's designed to be a TV show.
Right.
It's because you look at a lot of YouTube channels, even popular ones, it's a single camera setup.
Yeah.
And we have the 3 camera, and it's meant to feel like Siskel and Ebert meets Mr. Rogers.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Except for with 21st century quality.
Right.
But the feel of the show is that. And Inside Out, I remember when we filmed that episode, that was the first time we actually got together for a shoot.
The first time we ever got together, we shot, was it 5 or 6 episodes in a day, and one of them was that. And at the end of shooting that episode, I turned to you and was like, this is what the show is.
Yeah. Because we both broke down crying on camera.
Yeah.
We both went really raw and really real. And you said this is what the show is. And that episode has been such a hook for people because people want to heal.
Yeah.
And because people want to...
Yeah.
And they want to heal. They want to learn skills for their lives. They want to geek out about movies. And the biggest thing is they're drawn to our friendship, and they're drawn to 2 straight white males who express their emotions. Our one of our producers, Sophie, who is a woman of color. We were trying to figure out why we've been picking up Steve,
popular? Like,
and she says
about us?
She says the internet loves harmless white men.
They do. No, you know what? It really is great, and like you guys break the stereotype of like what I guess white men were kind of painted as back in like 1950s, 1960s.
Well, it's what we're all socialized to be, like the aggressor, the dominant, the whatever, and like.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just white men. It's men.
I mean, that's
it's
a
men.
male
Period.
Sure.
But
worldwide.
But we very deliberately. It's not an effort to be woke. It's just kind of who we are,
Yeah.
we're trying to create a space that's very inclusive.
Yeah.
And we're trying to create a space that's very safe for everybody and where people feel seen. And recognizing that we're two white dudes hosting the show means that it doesn't just happen organically.
Yeah.
And so we have to make sure that we make mention of different viewpoints, different backgrounds, different genders, different races, that we have guests that reflect that. We're going to have you on, which is going to be super fun.
It's going to be so fun.
But Inside Out, when you said this is what the show is, I think especially in 2020, there were a lot of people who responded that it was such a dark year, it was such a hopeless year, such a miserable year, and to be able to laugh and to cry and to have, there's lots of distractions, there's lots of YouTube distractions, there's lots of things that seek to make you laugh, but we seek to uplift and entertain and unify, and I think people have been really responsive to that. And I mean, to the point of lemonade stand stories, and the biggest reason I think we've had a success, I'm reading this book right now called Made for Goodness, by Desmond Tutu and his daughter Umpo, and it talks about that our flourishing should enhance other people, not diminish them. Yeah. Right. That your success should be everybody's success. That if you're instead of trying to step on people to get somewhere, and so Alan and I have no problem going as big as we want global domination, basically. With this.
Correct.
Because the bigger we get, the more people we help.
Right.
Yeah.
And if that makes us a good living, that's great.
But I love that your focus is on about helping other people. And
if it weren't, it would show up.
If it weren't, the show wouldn't be popular.
Yeah.
If we were just aggressively trying to very calculatedly grow the show and be, big YouTubers, I don't think people would connect.
Yeah.
Frankly.
We show people who we are, and that's what they respond to.
Yeah.
There's not a lot
of... one of the differences between YouTube and a TV show. Like, we talk about, our production quality is really high and all of those things to make it feel like a TV show, but we are very much making a YouTube show.
Yeah.
In that what people generally want on YouTube and other social media is, quote, authenticity, close quote, right? And of course, people fake that a lot, and, you can...
And it feels fake.
Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can get away with it. A lot of times you can't.
Neither you nor I are good enough actors.
We're not good enough actors to fake. You know this.
I know this. No.
Yeah, you're a good enough actor to fake authenticity. We cannot. So when you come on the show, please fake authenticity.
I will fake it so hard. No, I have to ask you guys. The show works because it really helps people with mental health, right? Especially in a time where people really, really struggle. Like 2020 and 2021 was also a very tough year.
It wasn't any better.
Yeah.
Like, it was supposed to be the year everything got better, and it didn't.
No, in fact, it just like reminded us of like, oh man, like this is gonna be here for a while.
The worst thing about 2021 was the hope that it would get better.
Yeah.
It's the hope that kills you.
And then you realize, oh no, 2021 again. Just kidding. It was I know. It was a stretch.
You're not even a dad. But
I know, but I'm trying to. Did that work?
Yeah,
the kids would like it.
100%.
Okay, sweet. But you guys really address mental health in a way that's like not pandering to your audience, but in a way like that really helps empower people to be like, oh my gosh, I've felt that, I've gone through that. You expressed to us just barely about like how you were struggling and like going to Burbank and then coming back and everything. Is there a particular time while doing the show that even the show itself helped you guys your own mental health, or it helped an audience member's mental health? Like, is there any story that comes about that's like, oh my gosh, like that was such a rewarding time?
I hate to say this because it's going to sound real douchey, but like we get so many stories from people that it's hard to single one out. You probably have a couple saved away that are like
we have several people who've told us that they decided not to take their own life because of watching the show.
Gosh.
We've had people who our Twilight episodes, even though they're basically a roast of Twilight, we very deliberately like weave throughout actual dating wisdom and relationships.
This is terrible. Here's a good version.
Oh
of
man,
it.
I remember watching Twilight with Jono, and I'm like, I want my money back. And he's like, I paid for the ticket. I'm like, you didn't pay for my time though. No,
but people have said that they got out of abusive relationships because of those
Yeah.
episodes, or that they did. The one that we get the most that I'm really happy about is that we have destigmatized therapy for a lot of people.
Yep.
That they watch the show, so they choose to.
So many people have said, hey, I never would have thought of this, but I'm in therapy and I'm doing better now.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I think
Really
there's
wild.
I think that's two things. I think one, Alan, once we did Inside Out, which there was never a plan for, we're going to get emotional and we're going to cry. I think we knew it was going to happen because it's Pixar.
I knew I was going to cry because I cry in movies. I cry when I'm an emotional guy. But
Right, but there's never been a strategy. Like there's a whole hashtag now, #crying with Alan, which we run with because one of our fans gave that to us and we're like, we love it. But there is never an instance where there's like a strategy. There's definitely Alan.
I never planned to cry.
Yeah.
But there's also times when you know you will.
Oh, yeah.
But with Inside Out, we did that episode, and when we were done shooting is when we realized, because my idea originally was that I would be the therapy side and Alan would be the filmmaking side, which is definitely what we still hold to. But we realized in that moment, Alan fulfills an even more important role for people's healing, which is that he is the audience surrogate.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because I'm the therapist, and unfortunately, there's always going to be a little bit of detachment there for some people. Because I'm quote unquote a clinician, like it's hard to relate to the therapist.
Yep.
Whereas Alan's very much the everyman that people relate to. On my end, awesome. I think the fact that I am not a buttoned-up, stuffy professional. I mean, I will come out swinging and show that I know what I'm talking about, not for my own ego, but like to help people and to give them real tools.
Yeah, we work.
But I'm also there screaming Die Hard and wearing like really tacky Christmas suits. And at a certain point, people are like, oh, therapists are people and I don't need to be intimidated.
Right.
And I think that also helps people make that decision.
Hugely beneficial. And I mean, you put in a lot of work to make sure that the clinical stuff is accurate, up-to-date, researched.
Yeah.
And we take very aggressive ownership of any time we get stuff like that wrong.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about people's mental health here. We have to put in the work.
Yeah.
And most of that falls to Jono. Nobody cares if I get the filmmaking stuff wrong, which is great for me.
Well, the biggest compliment we get, at least that I get, is from therapists who tell me how much they enjoy the show.
So many therapists.
Because my biggest fear is that I would be seen as like a hack and a fraud and a phony.
Oh,
because we're doing watered down psychology. We're not, but like that would be the perception because it's so silly and fun. And so I think that fear has led to, oh no, we're going to make sure the psychology aspect of it is really solid.
It's very sound.
Yeah.
Well, what also works is the filmmaking side of it. Like if it was just like a boring, like one camera, like, and then you two are talking and that's it. I don't think it would be as appealing, but like it's a very high quality, high produced thing. And that's all you, right? Like you're the one that's like editing it and, putting it all together. So can you walk us through a little bit about that process of how you decided, okay, this is how tonally it should look and feel?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously I've been doing this for 15 years. I have a really, my filmmaking journey has been extremely broad and relatively shallow. I've done a fair amount of narrative stuff. I've directed a lot of commercials, co-wrote and directed. But I've worked on documentaries. I've done sports documentaries. I've done
television,
reality TV. I've done narrative TV. I've all, like competition shows. I've done a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, right before this, the job that I lost in LA, I was producing video content for a company that makes like post-production tools, basically. Cool. And the first thing that I was doing there was basically a chat show that was extremely similar in format to what we're doing. The host wasn't nearly as good as we are, but that's who is?
Wow. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
No,
great.
But it was so I like as Jono was pitching the show, I had a really good idea, and then I started working and producing this show for this company I was working for, and I was like, oh, these are the tweaks that I'm going to make cinema therapy work. And I also like, you know, I brought in a friend who's our DP. He's actually taken over now as post-production supervisor. I edited the first, 45-ish episodes completely by myself.
Wow.
And then we brought in editors.
And wasn't getting paid because the show wasn't making any money.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I put in about 5,000 hours
of non-paid.
Basically
work.
unpaid.
Yeah.
To get the show up and running and off the ground. Which is insane.
Yes.
But yeah, I knew from the very beginning that I wanted the show to, like, we were very purposefully looking for someone who had like a home theater movie cave that felt like you were in your mom's basement and making a show. But what I wanted it to feel like was two dudes in mom's, basement making a show, but one of them is Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And, like, I wanted it to feel cinematic. And,
Right.
and the longer we've gone, like, we've changed our lighting setup almost every time. We make little tweaks to it to improve, to just make it feel more like a movie. We shoot at a movie frame rate. It's not a TV frame rate.
Yeah.
We do a lot of things to make it feel cinematic.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But still have that DIY feel to it, because it's on YouTube and people need to connect with, like, these are real guys, not like this is being produced by a giant corporation.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, and when you have an idea, like I had the idea for the show, and then you start.
By the way, I am not Steven Spielberg. Just
don't worry.
I was wondering. I'm not that good.
But you will be.
Yeah.
You're the best Alan Seawright there. That's what I love whenever Alan talks about how he's not Steven Spielberg. We have had fans talk about how Alan has affected their life more than Spielberg has, which
that's incredible, man.
Which is awesome.
Honestly. That really is incredible. Yeah.
It's huge. And the imposter syndrome version of me is like, that's neat. Spielberg's been doing it for 40 years and affected tens of millions of people. Maybe hundreds.
Yeah.
Maybe billions.
Yeah.
The idea, so since this is a lot of your podcast has to do with small business, right?
Yeah.
If you have an idea and then you bring aboard your partner and collaborate, you have to, in order to make that work, you have to be able to hand something over.
Yeah.
And then forever, like, it's not like, it's like if you give a gift to somebody, you don't get to take it back.
Yeah. It's there. Yeah.
And so there was a very small moment when this was my idea and this was mine. And the moment I called Alan was the moment I let go of that. And I did so very willingly because of the trust that I have in Alan.
Well, we've known each other for so long.
Yeah.
You knew what it was.
And I saw what you were doing on YouTube. And I said to him right out of the gate, I said, you are Chief Creative Officer. Here's what that means in my mind. You have final cut and final say. And the reason I was, without hesitation, gave that to him, one, because he's got great instincts and great talent for that. But two, not once have I felt unheard.
Yeah.
Alan, one of the things that makes him such a great collaborator is he wants the show to be the best it can be. He's not looking for his own glory. So there is no only Alan's ideas at the table. And if he had been that type of person, I never would have reached out to him. I would have found somebody else. Yeah. And so to that end, I love working with him, because if I have a good idea, we run with it. If I have a good idea, he might make it into a great idea. If I have a crap idea, that often leads to him having a good idea.
Right.
So, and that's really crucial when you're starting something out of the gate, is to surround yourself with the right people. And that's been how we run our organization. Our wives are involved. We're the 4, partners, and each person has a role, and in that role, they reign supreme. And the only reason that works is because everyone listens to everybody else.
I love that.
And I mean, I don't want to paint too rosy a picture. There's been conflict and there's been growth and there's been
like pretty gnarly conflict.
Are you open to talk about some of that stuff?
A little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Because here's the thing.
But I want to say before you ask your question.
Yeah.
But then you work through it and you come to a really beautiful place. And I think early on, when not everyone on our team knew each other very well, there wasn't the trust that there is now.
Right.
We are much more in a place now of, hey, here's an idea, but this is your arena, so you have final say, and I'm going to accept your decision, right? And the only way that works is if we actually listen to each other and work with each other.
No, I love that. I mean, because any business has conflict, and it's about like figuring out ways to like peacefully and gracefully resolve that conflict to help it to grow. Because every business has growing pains. Like that's just what a business does, right? So as you've grown so fast, like were there any specific growing pains that was like, oh, this is tricky, especially as we're trying to, this is not just like a regular YouTube video, this is not like an independent little film. This is an actual business that's supporting our family, our lives. Was there anything that comes to your mind that you're like, that was good that we got through that one?
For me, it's keeping pace. I've joked with Alan before, and I don't know whether or not he appreciates this joke, but that cinema therapy is like the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. No, I love this joke.
Like it's the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy, and like it always gets the job done.
Yeah.
What you don't know if you're just observing it outside, if you're not actually riding along inside the Millennium Falcon, is that behind the scenes it's always secretly on fire, and we're putting out the fires, or we're fixing things as they're falling apart, and it's getting much better. A big part of that is we're creatives. We're not systems people, and without systems, there's no business.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
And so that's one of the roles that Alicia, my wife, fulfills, and we've brought on Darren Smith, who is a friend of ours, to help us really, because we don't want to be building systems. We just want to be doing what we do best.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. For Jono and I to build systems, I feel safe in saying, this is a thing both of us could do and excel at, but it would be a gigantic amount of effort that would hurt the rest of it would hurt our creative.
And we would hate it while we were doing it.
We would hate it.
Just because we could do it doesn't mean we should.
Yeah, it doesn't mean we should. And there are people who really enjoy doing that. And so it makes much more sense to just bring those people on, because we're in a position where, the business has grown enough that we can just pay people to do the things that we don't want to do.
Yes.
Well, and to that point, you mentioned earlier that Alan edits the show. Alan did edit the show. Part of having a successful business is something called nail it and scale it. You nail how you want it done, and then you hire people to do it.
Yeah.
And so we have brought, and by we, I mean Alan has a team of editors that he oversees as chief creative officer.
Yep.
And you'll notice if you go back and watch our older episodes and watch the newer episodes, we are evolving. But the tone of the show and what the show is still stays the same. Like things are fine tuned, and Alan is responsible for creating that. Like what the show is, on that side. I mean, I'm the clinical side, so I'll take the credit for that. But on the creative side, that's Alan, and it's still Alan because he manages the team. And one of the things that makes him such a great manager of his editing team, I'm CEO, so I do one-on-one sit-downs with every member of the team to see what's working for them and what feedback they have. And the biggest feedback I have about Alan, nonstop, is that every member of the team feels like they get to add their own personality and their own gifts and their own ideas. And it's made the show better.
So much better. Like, I look at the episodes that I cut versus the episodes that our editors are doing now. And, several of our editors are young people like fresh out of school.
Yeah.
And they are so much better at my show than I was.
Really? That's amazing.
Hopefully it's a subtle difference to viewers, but to me, who, I'm deeply immersed in what the show is, why a cut happens, how does this make a joke land, all of this stuff, they're so much better at it than me.
And they understand, like today's humor and meme culture.
Especially our young editors really nail that stuff. And it's great too, because all of the editors will collaborate on each other's stuff. So like, one of our guys is in his mid-30s. And he has sort of a better knowledge. He's a very online guy, so better knowledge than Jono and I. And we're pretty okay at that. Like obviously we were good enough at it to make a show successful with a younger audience. But then we have our 20-somethings talking to our 30-something and like, hey, you should throw this meme in there and this meme in there. And Jono and I several times have been like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? Like, oh, it's a huge meme on TikTok. And we're like, cool, I guess go with that.
Yeah.
And then it helps it helps us to attract younger fans, because here's a quick little tidbit.
Yeah.
We started the show thinking that we were attractive,
which you are,
men.
No.
Yeah.
And that And it's okay.
We thought we were cool young dads.
We thought we were cool young dads, and that we might attract some female fans who thought, this is just male ego. Right. And pretty quickly we realized, oh no, people see us as their dads.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we are no longer can aspire to any sort of hotness. No. Like we are.
No. We've just fully leaned into. We're just dad.
Hey,
we're just frumpy old dads.
Enjoy the dad bods then. No, you guys, it's great. I remember one of my favorite memories I even had was at my house, and I'm just eating dinner or whatever, and my brother-in-law Andrew, I was talking about cinema therapy, and they're like, "Wait, what? Like cinema therapy? Like, do you know those guys from cinema?" I'm like, Andrew, wait, are you serious? And I'm like,
my college roommates.
I'm like, dude, yes, of course. Like we've like grown up together, and they're like, he's like,
Wait,
no way.
We were never actually roommates, were we?
No, we were for like 5 months.
Together?
Like Tim wasn't there, but that's
right.
I stole
Okay.
Tim's.
Tim went to DC for the summer, and Sharon moved in.
Don't worry,
because again, we had food.
We had food. There was food involved, and I was there.
I remember this now.
Yeah.
You ate a lot of my food.
Yeah, thank you. I owe you.
You really don't.
So I want to wrap things up. You guys are incredible. Like let's just ask a couple more questions. What's next for you all? Like what do you hope that cinema therapy is going to accomplish?
You first.
For me, cinema therapy is just a stepping stone. No, I have a lot of goals for what I want to do with cinema therapy. It's growing. I have a lot of ideas for like experimentation within the show. I mean, we have a pretty solid set idea of what the show is.
Yeah,
and I want to mess with people.
Great,
because
you can.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do a bunch of different things there. We now have 700,000 plus fans that I hate to say use, but like
appeal to.
Appeal to.
Yeah, totally.
That we're working on a short film. We're going to work together on a narrative movie for the first time in
a long while, right?
14 years, 13 years. It's been a while.
Because the thing is like you're such a talented filmmaker, and I know like from the days of doing 29 Day 2 and CTU Provo to now, like the amount of learning you've learned is like astronomical.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's, getting to do like my own stuff has always been the end goal of, I wasn't making commercials because I wanted to make commercials. I was making commercials because I was always trying to get a feature off the ground. I was always trying to get something like that going. And now it's still not just like an automatic green light, but it's a lot easier to go out to investors and say, hey, we want to make a, around $1 million movie. I have 700,000 fans who are going to pony up $10 a pop the day it comes out.
Right.
It gets real easy to approach investors at that point.
Yeah.
Rather than, I'm talented. Don't you believe me?
Yeah.
Look at these commercials I made.
Well, and then the YouTube channel is a track record of success in and of itself.
It is.
Right.
And you have people who are very invested because they love you.
Yeah.
In your success.
Extremely weird. Like, this is the thing that for me has been very strange is people, not that they're putting expectations onto me, because obviously people are going to expect, like, I talk about myself as a professional filmmaker, so they're going to expect like a level of professionalism, which is terrifying. Yeah. But they also have just invested emotionally in my success because I've been so vulnerable with them about my feelings about not feeling successful in the film industry. Because I've done a lot of things. I've won Emmys. Like I've been successful, but I set such a high bar for myself, and I'm such I need therapy. I don't know if I win all the Oscars in the world and make $1 bajillion and turn into the next James Cameron or Steven Spielberg. I think I will still just go like, I'm not successful yet, because that's just how my messed up brain chemistry is. But to have this giant group of people
rooting for you
who want that for me is really, like, they're invested in, we want to see what movies you make, but also we just love you and want you to feel good about the movies you make. It's like, I have 100,000 moms on the internet, it's like great.
It's amazing, man. And I mean, the thing is like, I remember like you are so smart. Like when you were making like even 29 Day 2 and CTU Provo, like we had such limited funds.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to like make a calculated decision and be like, okay, we're gonna make that. I was like, wow, Alan's like, he's incredibly decisive, and like he can make those calls and make it happen, and it's such a great quality. And now to have like this incredible audience supporting you and helping you, like I cannot wait for that feature that you're gonna make, and I hope that I can audition to be a part of it.
There is going to be a part for you.
I'm excited.
There is definitely going to be a part for you. I don't know what it is yet.
Secret Agent Pizza.
Secret
Agent Pizza.
Look,
That's ready back.
We know you can do that.
Yes.
I want to stretch you a little bit, okay?
All right, sounds good. What about you, Jono? What do you think?
Honestly, my dream, and Alan knows this, is I want to do 5 to 10 hours of therapy a week. And just to stay loose, probably even 5, honestly, and let my team do the rest. And then spend my time in content creation. Here's what I love. I've positioned myself in life so that when I'm watching a movie, I'm working.
Yeah,
it is a tax write-off for you.
Yes, I want to spend my time watching movies and immersing myself in the current research, and in books and in articles, and in just my gift. Speaking, I think we're all gifted and we're all flawed. So I have 1,000 flaws. So what I'm about to say, I don't say bragging. I just know I'm good at this. I've been to presentations on relationships or on mental health where I'm like, I could never do that research. I could never create what they've created, but I could present it way better than they could present it.
Yeah.
You're like, my dream for you is to be America's therapist. Like, you're the guy who's going on Good Morning America, or, you know, whatever your morning show is.
Dr. Leo Marvin.
Well, no, not Dr. Leo Marvin.
Yeah.
But like,
Liquid Pasaki? Yeah.
I mean, you know, Dr. Phil, but not a complete
hack.
Like, and not that you have to have a daily show or any of that stuff, but just like, you're the guy who's like the authority, because you're so personable and you're such a good presenter and you're fun and you just have that energy that just brings people in. It's so
Thank
great.
you. I want to take complicated ideas and make them fun and easy to digest and just help a lot of people with their lives. So cinema therapy is doing that. We want to go bigger.
Yeah.
And then I have books I want to write. I have things I want to do.
That's amazing. That's so awesome. Guys, honestly, thank you so much. Like, seriously, this podcast, I feel, has been great because I'm getting 2 different perspectives on something. And, you know, it's been really interesting because I see the amount of good that you're doing in the world right now. And I see how much more exponential it can get. And it's just really, really powerful. I think one of my favorite memories was just seeing, like, the amount of fandom that you guys had at FanX. You know, like, that was bonkers. That was amazing.
So weird.
Yeah.
That was another moment for me, like when we premiered 29 and we had that room full of people.
Yes.
They were all going nuts. The same thing happened to us at FanX this year. 500 people showed up. They had to turn people away because the fire marshal was like, there's too many people in this room.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
they immediately got on the horn, the FanX people, and they're like, next year, get these guys a bigger room. And
Yeah.
we're like, okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It was wild.
What was really fun about that, as enjoyable as the panel itself was, is afterwards.
All the people who wouldn't leave.
Well, we said, so if anyone wants a photo op or an autograph, you know, they're free, so you get what you pay for. Yeah. But
we were expecting 15 or 20 people.
Yeah, and like fully half of the crowd, so 250 people, and we didn't have a space for it. We literally roamed around the Salt Palace?
Yeah, the Salt Palace Convention Center.
Until we found enough space where we could like stand against a wall and people
giant empty hallway.
Yeah, and people could line up and just interacting with people one-on-one as they talked about, you know, that someone traveled across the country to be there, or someone who decided not to take their life and to keep trying, or to go into therapy, or to become a filmmaker, or to save their marriage, and all these different things. And that's, you know, that was always the hope.
Yeah.
We put a lot of work
Not
into...
even remotely my expectation, by the way. Jono, much more optimistic. I'm sure he expected some of it. I expected literally nothing.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I know the things that I've been doing in therapy for years and how they help people.
Yeah.
the hope that we could convert that into a YouTube show where we're also eating popcorn and geeking out about movies
and screaming Die Hard.
And screaming Die Hard without diluting the impact.
Yeah.
And actually, quite the contrary, that it would enhance that it would enhance the impact and get people interested who might not otherwise be interested. That was the hope. But you live long enough, you have hopes for a lot of things. You set out on a lot of endeavors. You start a lot of projects that never take off or they're really great and no one ever finds them and no one ever uses them, and or you thought they were great and turns out they were rubbish. And so to actually have this succeed the way it is and help the way it's helping is very, very gratifying and fulfilling. Yeah. And what it takes as far as a business owner, you need strategy. You need to, Alan was talking about thumbnails and titles. You need to create something that people want. We put a fair amount of strategy into, for example, our early videos, we don't look at camera a lot. Now we look at camera all the time. We probably look at camera more than we look at each other. Because people stay on the video longer, right?
Interesting. I didn't even know that. Yeah.
We dive so deep into the analytics. This is an obsession of mine and has been for a long time.
Yeah.
And now I have this giant data set that I get to play with.
Right,
And it's just like, who's watching what for how long and why?
Yeah. And so you can't just create something you love and hope it works. Like, you also have to do the work to, what does the research show, and other people who are successful, how do they make it happen? Yeah. It's a mix of what has worked for others and then doing something unique and creative. When I did my graduate school thesis, my master's thesis, they taught me, find the gaps in the research, find something that no one else is doing that satisfied a need that no one else has answered yet. And so when it comes to a business, you can't do what everyone else is doing or you're just going to fall to the wayside. You have to do, and it doesn't have to be something wholly new, but it has to be something that, in our case, no one was asking for this. No one knew they wanted this.
Yeah. Right.
And we created something that one of my favorite comments is that cinema and therapy are two flavors that you wouldn't put together. And then once you taste them together, you think this is delicious.
It's strawberries and sharp white cheddar cheese.
Yes. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so, and then you have to also be willing to surround yourself with the right people, which means that they're going to push back against your ideas sometimes, or they're going to have ideas that aren't yours, or they're going to, do the unpopular thing of holding your feet to the fire and making sure stuff gets done. That we mentioned the conflict amongst our team that we've worked through, and we're a much healthier team now as a result of it. That conflict was largely the result of different people seeing the world differently and approaching this differently, which could break a business or it could absolutely make it, because the sum is greater than the individual parts, right? That if it was just up to members of the team who think alike, we wouldn't get where we are now.
Right.
And that's not in just one direction, that's in all the directions. Alicia's had ideas that Alan and I were resistant to that were really beneficial. Alan had, and conversely, Alicia's like, I don't think we need to do a 3-camera setup. And Alan pushed back and says, no, we absolutely do, which was huge for us. Every team member has great ideas. Every team member has ideas that the other people have to say sorry. Yeah. And you have to, you have to be willing to navigate that and come to a healthy place.
Yeah. You hit on so many points. I was going to even ask you another question, and I don't even need to, because I feel like you already answered in a way what I was going to ask. But
that's what we do at Cinema Therapy.
That's what you guys do. No, honestly, both of you, I know your schedules are so.
While
I know.
He was drinking.
I know.
I spared the mic though. I had to basically gargle laugh it, but
yeah. I know you guys' schedules are so busy, so thank you guys both so much for coming on this podcast. We're really excited. We want to empower everybody. We want to empower the youth, and I think them just watching your show and like hearing the story that you've shared with us to meet with me today will hopefully do that for them. What can I do for you guys? What can we do to help boost out Cinema Therapy even more?
By we, you mean people who are listening?
Listening, as well as like the lemonade stand, because we're a digital marketing agency. So how can we help market you guys even more?
you could tell us, because you could tell us when
Yeah,
we're done.
you can tell us what we're doing wrong.
or what you have to offer. As far as
Yeah.
people listening,
Yeah.
the algorithm is great on YouTube, but even better is people who can't
Sharing
shut
it.
up about it.
Yep.
Can't shut up about our show. Like, we love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best algorithm is people.
I love that.
Who
That's
annoy
awesome.
their friends and family until they're like, fine, I will watch it.
That's awesome. Well, for those of you listening, you can find Jono and Alan on Cinematherapy, just Cinematherapy. Is there anything else any other links that you want us to promote or anything like that for you guys?
You could.
We both got other YouTube channels. Alan's got Telekinesis Entertainment, which is where he does his creative work. I've got Mended Light, where I do a lot of my more clinical stuff.
More clinical therapeutic stuff.
Yeah. Cinematherapy blends the two, but if you want a stronger dose of either, like a more unadulterated dose of either, then you can go to Telekinesis Entertainment for Alan or Mended Light for me, and that's all on YouTube.
Awesome.
I've got the cheese. He's got the strawberries.
Fantastic.
Come to
I was going to ask you.
Cinematherapy for the
I was
cheese
going to
and
ask which one
strawberries.
had which one. Well, thank you guys both so much for being on this podcast. It was so fun talking to you guys and catching up. And let's make a movie together, or come on I'll come on Cinematherapy if that time is right for you guys.
Oh, I already know the episode
That'll
you're
be
going to do.
perfect. That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys both so much. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
brother.
Yep. Thanks so much for listening to the Lemonade Stand podcast, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you use to be alerted when we release new episodes. We'd also love to hear your feedback in the reviews, and if you or someone you know has an awesome Lemonade Stand story, please reach out to us on social media and let us know.